again guys, what is up? Welcome back, it's Dan here with another pickups video. So we may be a couple of months into 2021 now, but things are starting to look a little bit brighter. Hopefully the lockdown will be lifted soon and we can get back out there picking up loads of great new games. It's been really hard as we haven't been able to go to local game shops, places like CEX or even car booths to pick things up. But I've still managed to pick up some pretty awesome items, so let's jump in and see what we got this week in this time's pickups. If you haven't seen my latest video, why I bought a Switch in 2021, go and watch that now. But the main thing you need to know is I now have added the Switch to my collection. It's taken a long while, it's been out for over 4 years, but it's finally in the collection. I've had this for about 2 weeks now, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed. Nintendo always put out quality software, and this console is brilliant. Really enjoyed it, looking forward to adding more games into the collection. Now I've added a Switch into my collection, it's time to start really building up the collection of Switch games. So the first game is one I got with the console, and that is Mario and the Origami King. Not normally a game I'd check out. I haven't played a lot of the Paper Mario games. I'm about halfway through this one and so far I'm really enjoying it. The art style is really cool and I really enjoy the turn-based battles, and it really does have quite a strange sense of humour, but I really quite enjoy it. The other game I added for the Switch this week was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I played a lot of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but new console, new Mario Kart. So this does add a little bit of extra stuff, nothing too groundbreaking, but Mario Kart 8 was one of my favourite Mario Karts of all time. So this one just improves on that formula and it's a must-have for any Switch collector. Next up we have Warhammer 40,000 Deathwatch for the PS4. So I think this is like a tactical squad-based shooter. I think it's turn-based as well, but this was like super cheap. I'm quite a fan of all the Warhammer 40,000 lore. Quite enjoy those kind of games. So this was only about £3 to £4, brand new for a PS4 game. It's kind of rude, might as well give it a go. If not, you can always pass it on. Next up we have some games for the Xbox 360, and the first series is Guitar Hero Greatest Hits. So this collects all your favourite songs from all over the Guitar Hero games to really put them together on one fantastic compilation. It has all your favourites there. It has AFI, it has the Foo Fighters, Pantera, Rush, even Slayer's Raining Blood. This is a really good selection of tracks, especially if you can't be bothered to change the disc, and it just puts them all together in one simple to use place. From one Guitar Hero game to another, this time Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. And this is another one which is slowly creeping up in the price range. But this has a really good soundtrack. You have Avenged Sevenfold, Kiss, My Chemical Romance, Rammstein, Slipknot, even the White Stripes. This is a really good selection of the more rock and heavy metal songs, which, to be honest, I kind of prefer. And this one, I'm really looking forward to checking out that full playlist. Next one, I picked up a copy of Minecraft for the Xbox 360, so I will always pick this game up if I see it. I actually don't have it in my collection because it is one of those games I like to resell very often. You can easily get £15 for this on eBay on any given day, but the only problem was when I got this disc home, the disc, I don't know if you can see, is absolutely wrecked. It's one of the worst discs I think I've ever seen. But because this has got a decent amount of resale value, it might be worth taking to a shop and getting the disc cleaned, and then hopefully we can trade it in towards some games we want more for the collection. The last one for the Xbox 360 this time is Forza Motorsport 4, and this is the limited edition version. So I'm really quite a fan of the Forza games, a bit more of Horizon rather than Motorsport, but this one's quite cool. It comes in the slipcase, it comes with the art book and the steel book. It's always nice to get a limited edition, get something a little bit more special with it. It just looks nice on the shelf in the game collection. We're coming to the favourite part of my video, and that's where I talk about the games I managed to pick up this time for free. So in our village we have a phone box, which is no longer a phone box, so it is used as a library. We always take out old DVDs and books there, and people can swap and take whatever they need. And very, very occasionally a game turns up in there, such as this one, Fight Night Round 2. Not the most amazing game, but you know me, any free game is going in the collection. My next free pickup was this amazing little Sensible Soccer Mini Mega Drives. This has 2 players and also has 2 extra games built in. They are Megalomania and, more importantly, Cannon Fodder, which is one of my favourite games from the 16-bit era. It is such a good game, and it's just a really cool little plug-in to plug straight into your TV to be playing straight away. This is another really good reason to keep your eyes on Facebook Marketplace. Free stuff does come up, but you've got to be quick to get it. I think it was in the first 10 minutes of this being listed, and in the next 10 minutes I picked it up and brought it home to add into the collection. You've got to be quick to be in it. Another item that I added for free this week is this Sony Trinitron CRT TV. If you're an old school gamer like myself and you like to play on a CRT, you will know this is the final word in that technology. The pitch on here is so crisp and the pixels look absolutely fantastic. This is the CRT I've been after for ages and I managed to pick this up for free. So let's check this little plug and play Mega Drive out. So you can see here we've got the 3 games. We've got Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder and Megalomania. I'm going to go straight into Cannon Fodder. This was one of my favourite games back on the Mega Drive, and I've got to say, this controller does actually feel pretty good. It is very, very light though, but look at the picture on that CRT. It looks so good. Let's jump straight into this game. So I mean, the controller does actually feel really good for this game. It does feel nice. It's well controlled, easy to use and pretty responsive. All in all, definitely could recommend this plug and play. GameCube time next, and we have PN03 or project number 03. So this is a game I know very little about, but it does come up a lot in people's lists of games that are hidden gems for the GameCube. And as we all know, GameCube games are going up and up in price. So I was really glad to add this for quite a cheap price into the collection. In the recent Nintendo Direct stream, they announced they are making another Mario Golf game for the Switch. So it's a good time now to go back before the hype train to pick up the older Mario Golf games. So this is Mario Golf for the GameCube. Really looking forward to checking this one out. I'm a big fan of all the Mario sports games. And as I always say, if it has Mario on the box, you know that price is only going to increase over time. Something a little bit different now. We have these repro boxes for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. So these are not official, but these are for some harder to find games, so it's cool to have these boxes to keep your cartridges safe. So the first one is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX for the Game Boy Color. This is a really rare game, so it's cool to get this case so we can store it when added to the collection. Next up is Pokemon Trading Card Game for the Game Boy Color. So I do actually have this game already in the collection, so it'd be cool to put it into this case. Obviously the normal case will be made of cardboard, but as these cases are getting harder to find, it's cool to have this one to store the game. The same can be said for Game Boy Color Pokemon Crystal version. This is a really hard game to get complete in box, so this would be a really cool way to add it and keep it stored on the shelf. And also Pokemon Fire Red version, another really rare game which is going to be very expensive to get complete in box. So these game boxes were about £1 to £2 each, so they're pretty cool just for display purposes in the collection. We've come from repro boxes into official boxes. This was a bit of a holy grail item for me, and that is Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance, complete in box. So I did actually buy this as the box without the game, because I still have my original copy of the game with all the tracks completed. So this was the first game I got when I got my Game Boy Advance. It was packaged with a console from Toys R Us. Mario Kart is one of those games I really love, and one I'm aiming to have a complete in box collection of. So I'm down to just needing one more of the Mario Karts complete in box now, and that is Mario Kart 64. So hopefully in the near distant future I can add that to my collection. I'll have my full Mario Kart collection. If you have been a subscriber to the channel for a little while, you'll have seen one of my early videos which I was selling a load of Wii stuff to CEX for in-store credit. So the reason for doing this is CEX have some really good deals on retro games. So I decided to spend all the money I got from that trade-in on N64 games, and I have got a really good selection to show you right now. All of these games were super cheap, ranging from £3 to £6. The first one is Vigilante 8 for the N64. So I think I originally played this on the PlayStation 2, but with the processing power of the N64, here's hoping this one's even better. Next up is NBA Live 99, a basketball game. I'm not really normally one to add that many sports games to my collection, but as the price of N64 games is only getting higher, it's worth picking these ones up while they're cheap. Next up is one that I did pass by in the old days, and that is Force Gemini by Rare Games, you know, the ones who made GoldenEye. So I don't really know why I passed this off back in the day, but I'm looking forward to going back and checking it out now. So let me know in the comments below if you played this originally or if you played it recently and what to expect. Here we have Quake II for the N64. So I had the original Quake for the N64, so I thought I'd better add its friend into the collection. So I actually thought first-person shooters worked really well on the N64. I expect it's going to have pretty muddy graphics. You know, it was quite a high-end PC game at that time, but looking forward to checking this one out. Next, we have one of my very all-time favourite games for the N64, and that is Body Harvest. When I saw the reviews of this in magazines, I was blown away by the 3D open world. The fact it had all its destructibility, you could jump in any vehicle and use it, and the time travel mechanic was absolutely fantastic. If you take one thing away from this video, I would recommend you go back and play this game. It is an absolutely phenomenal game, one I cannot recommend enough. This is one thing to consider though when you're buying from CEX, you are blind buying. So this cartridge has a really nice front, but the back, as you can see, has got some damage. This is one of the problems. You are going to get a cheap deal from CEX, but you don't know what you're buying. Next up is another game which I put a lot of hours back in the day, and that is Turok Rage Wars. This had a really good local multiplayer, and also you could add in bots. You could play as dinosaurs, Turok, the enemies, everything, even players of Velociraptor. It was a really good arena-based team shooter, one definitely recommend checking out. Another game I never checked out back in the day was Forsaken. So I think this is kind of an underground shooter. It looks quite interesting. One I presume probably hasn't aged too well, but worth having these games while they're cheap. Next up we have Twisted Edge Snowboarding for the N64. I gotta admit, when I think N64 and snowboarding, I would always think of 1080 snowboarding, but let me know, does this one stand up, or is it just a bit rubbish compared to the daddy 1080? Next up we have a puzzle game in Wet Tricks. So this one actually looks really interesting. You kind of raise and lower the ground using fireballs to fill them up with water to make the biggest reservoirs you can. It looks like a kind of cool puzzle game, kind of taking Tetris and making it 3D, and having the element of up and down elevation. Kind of looking forward to checking this one out, and as it's kind of a puzzle game, even with the graphics, it probably hasn't aged too badly. Another sports game, and that is World Cup 98. So this gives you an idea of how the N64 is kind of creeping on in its years now. So this is one of the reasons to pick up the carts now, as they're only going to get more and more expensive, even the lesser titles like this one. Another game which is really cheap to add to the N64 collection is F1 World Grand Prix 2. So the day I actually bought my N64 back in 96-97, it came with F1 Grand Prix, the original. I remember going home and trying to explain to my parents, just look at the graphics, it's so real. And they're just looking at me like, what are you talking about? But with those rose tinted glasses, that game just looked like the real world to me. But looking back, they are a bit blocky, but still a cheap one to add into the collection. The final game I picked up from CEX this time is WCW vs NWO World Tour. So we know this was the games that led on to the absolutely amazing WWF No Mercy, and you know I'm trying to add all the wrestling games ever made into my collection. This one is a really good game, but this is the problem from buying from CEX. You can see they have put the label over the label of the N64. It just begs belief why they would do that. And also the back is absolutely covered in stickers. This is quite a cheap game, and hopefully if I can't remove the stickers I can pick it up again in the wild. But this is one thing when you buy from CEX, you don't know what you're going to get, but of all the games this is the only one that's in kind of a bad condition, so I think it's kind of a win-win. So there are all the games I picked up from CEX. In the end I had £69 in trade-in credit, and I managed to get all of those games. If you go back and watch my video on trading in games to CEX, there's just a few things to consider. Everything will need to be tested. I did have a few remotes sent back, and also in that video I did say you didn't need to send in the nunchucks, but I did get a message from CEX later on that said we do need the nunchucks, so remember to send both the Wii remote and the nunchuck. So there we have it guys, another big collection of pickups. Even through lockdown we are adding some amazing games into the game collection. It just slowly builds and builds and builds. Adding things in slowly over time is the best way to really make it a massive collection. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and remember to subscribe so you don't miss any more great videos. Also follow me on Facebook at Dan the Games Man, on Instagram at Dan the Games Man, and as always, keep playing the game.